Hi, I'm CP of CP Production, and if you're here, consider yourself a member of the production crew. Welcome back to the channel. As promised, this is the video that I said I would drop this week, and I will be sharing with you major life changes that I've encountered that has kept me away from the channel. I will try to keep this video as brief and as concise and coherent as I possibly can. I'm hoping that what I have to share today will help someone in their own journey, if they've already faced it, or if it's a situation that they'll find themselves in. I wasn't really sure. I knew that at some point I would share this experience. I just wasn't sure on when and how I would share the experience. So this is just me in my kitchen. And I said, well, let's do it this way, okay? I started my channel during the pandemic, 2020. And in that introductory, I expressed that at the time, I was an essential worker. I have a degree in nursing, and I worked in advocacy, and I worked in in an environment that did not permit me to work remote, okay? I did a lot of case management, hands-on stuff. And I expressed how important it was as an essential worker to have an environment or create an environment where when you were away from work, you can re-energize, take charge of your life, and de-stress, okay? And in that introductory video, I shared with you, some of the topics that would, support the lifestyle channel I was trying to create. And those topics were DIYs, life hacks, entertainment, hospitality. And more specifically, I had also said that my mother would be a contributor to the channel. And I was so excited because my mother and I, we were very close, okay? But unknown to me, shortly after making that video, I came into the knowledge that my mother was ill, okay? And at the time when I found out she was ill, I was not aware how serious or to the magnitude that my mother was ill, or my mother's illness. So in June, there were some things in between April of me starting the channel in June that, I was trying to get a handle of. And of course, COVID was doing what it was doing. So, my energies and my attention, they were going in several directions. In June, I found out that something was going on with my mother, but I didn't know the full scope. My mother and I, we always had a very close relationship. We would talk on the phone for hours, like 3 hours, 5 hours meant nothing to us on the phone. We live in different states. So that was one of the means that we, took advantage of to just, keep up and stay in touch. Well, I'll never forget the series of events. And so I'll start there. I won't go from April to, I won't go from April to November. I'll start in November. And I remember it so clearly because it was November 3rd. And it was election day. And it was also the day that I got my CCW. And as normal, I was excited about it, and I wanted to talk to my mother about the, my voting process, and I wanted to hear about hers, and well, not hear about hers because I know my mother always did mail-in ballots, but she kept up on the news, and she would tell me how things were, panning out in her area. We reside in different states. And so I wanted to tell her about my voting experience, and I took that little picture of my little CCW license and I sent it to her. And so we did the normal chatting. And at some point, because she had, had some, health complications and illnesses, I said, well, how are your appointments going? And she just casually at some point says to me, yada yada yada, and then they want to start. They want me to see the oncologist on the 31st of December, and that was my reaction like that, because my mother didn't tell me she was sick, not to that degree. My mother never said to me, they found a spot, they're doing biopsies, they're trying to figure out if this is cancer. My mother never uttered a word to me regarding anything that serious. So when she says, oh, they want me to see the oncologist on the 31st of December, and we're having this conversation November 3rd, I think I was in a mild state of shock. But when I finally, collected my thoughts, I said to my mom, I said, Mommy, are you telling me you have cancer? And in pure mama bear fashion, she kind of gave a little chuckle. Well, the doctors are always going to tell you this or that, but everything's in God's hands. And I know that argument. I know that technique. I know what is supposed to, subdue me and me not investigate or challenge, because, she invoked God into the conversation. So, the conversation was kind of like, you got a little quiet. It was a little solemn. And my mother, because I know her so well, I know when to go and when to stop. And she could tell that, I was just itching and bursting to ask more questions. So she gave me permission. And she shared with me that they found like a spot on her lung and like little pin size spots on a couple of her bones, okay? And she said that that they think that it may be stage 3 cancer. And it knocked the wind out of me. It knocked the wind out of me. So I put on, I have a degree in nursing, so I put that hat on. And I said, Mommy, if they're telling you that this is probably cancerous, then you cannot wait until the 31st of December to see an oncologist. Because this type of cancer, it's cancer period, but this type of invasion to your body between November 3rd and the 31st of December, it can take off exponentially. So you can't wait till the 31st of December. And I said to my mother, I said, you need to call your doctor and tell your doctor that if they can't get you in to someone over the next week, then you need another doctor. So she did that, and they actually got her in to someone the following week. So she and I continued in our conversation, and I remember relaying this. I remember sharing with my mother. I said, "Mommy," I said, I think I should come. I said, I feel like I should come and take care of you. My dad was there, of course, and my parents were married 50 years. 50 years. Isn't that like that's such a wonderful tribute to just who they are as people, you know? They've been married 50 years. And, but you know, he's dad. You know, he's not a healthcare practitioner. My mother has always run the home. She's always run the business associated with the home. So now these were things he was starting to have to take over and take charge. And I knew that it was going to be, and it had to have been too overwhelming for our dad. So I said, Mommy, I feel like I need to come and take care of you. And I shared with her an episode of the Oprah Winfrey Show that I remember so vividly. And it was Maria Shriver Schwarzenegger, Arnold Schwarzenegger's ex-wife. Maria Shriver is a Kennedy. I believe Eunice Kennedy is her mother. And she recounted an experience that they had with their mother at the hospital. And she was saying how when you have a loved one in care, when you have a loved one in the hospital, you have to be boots on the ground there advocating for your family member, because they will not receive the care, the focused care that they need if there's no one there looking over the shoulders of the physicians, the nurses, and all these individuals who are providing care to your loved one. I'll never forget her saying that. And she went on to say how if she was not there, and if her siblings and other family members were not there, her mother probably would not have been there with them, because she would not have received the care that was so critically important to her health. And she made the statement, and we're the Kennedys. Now, I didn't see Miss Shriver speaking out of her eliteness. I didn't see it that way. What she was really trying to get across and convey, that it doesn't matter who you are, what your station in life is. If you have a loved one in care, you need to be there seeing about them. The people who are caring for them need to know that there's someone here that loves this person. There's someone here who's going to be, double checking things on their behalf. So I shared that with my mother, and I said, Mommy, I think I need to come. This is about the second, going on the third week of November. And she says, I do want you to come. She says, I do want you to come. She says, but let's talk about this, after I get more information. Okay. Well, an appointment was made for my mother to receive a port to receive her chemo treatment on the 24th of November. This was the day before Thanksgiving. And I thought, I wasn't comfortable with it being the day before Thanksgiving, because people are like kind of rushing around. They're trying to prepare for the holidays. I wanted to make sure she's going to get the care that she needed when people weren't preoccupied in their minds and in their personal lives and just wanting to start their holidays. That was a concern to me. But November 24th was better than December 31st, which to me, because they had made that date so much earlier, it was important, and it was at that level where my mother needed care quicker, immediately. So the 24th, which was a Wednesday, my mother went and had the port put in. Well, My dad was there with her, of course, and I'm still in another state. There were some complications where the port was inserted, but because of the complications my mother had, which I'm still to this day am not clear on what happened, she did not receive chemo. And from what I can kind of deduce by just some of her medical records is that she had a heart attack on the table. So they stopped all procedures. Well, because of the medical complications, she ended up in the hospital on the 25th, which was Thanksgiving. So we are talking to our mother on Thanksgiving while she's in the hospital. And, you know, I'm talking back and forth to my dad, and he's trying to be as positive as he can. But to be quite honest, he's only just repeating what my mother says. So the 26th, Friday, rolls around. And that morning I woke up so early. I mean, I wake up early anyways. I have a very irregular sleep pattern. So I'm up all times, day and night. But that particular morning, it was about 1 o'clock in the morning. And I text my mother, which was not unusual. Like, I'll just text, "Are you up?" and she'll call me, or she'll text me, "Yeah," giving me permission to call. And my mother and I, we would have these like long conversations over the course of my whole life. We would just have these long conversations. And we would be on the phone and we would solve all the world's problems. It was nothing for us to be on the phone 3 hours, 5 hours, nothing. As a matter of fact, if you have T-Mobile, I don't know if this has been your experience, but my mother and I would talk so long that we knew that at 12:01 in the morning, T-Mobile was going to cut us off. You know, you can call again, you can redial, and you can continue your conversation. But if we started a conversation at 5, 6 o'clock at night and we're still on at 12 in the morning, T-Mobile's cutting you off. So I don't know if that whole unlimited call is really unlimited, but talk and text, I really don't know. But nonetheless, so we would talk to each other all the time, daily, and then a couple of times a week for hours. Okay. Because I just love talking to my mother. She's so insightful. But so Friday, I text her that morning. It's about 1 o'clock. And she texted me and said that she was, sleeping lightly and she was doing well and, just positive stuff. And she was happy to hear from me. So I said, okay, well, try to get some rest and call me when you're up and alert. So, the day marched on and it got to be about maybe 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock and I hadn't heard from my mother. And like, she gets up early too, but I know she's ill. So I'm thinking with the, the nurses coming back and forth, and the phlebotomist coming back and forth that, she probably didn't sleep that well. So she was sleeping in. So I text her and I said, "Good morning, are you up?" And she called, she didn't answer. And so now, I'm trying not to, harass her, but I'm getting anxious. So I called her and she says in a hurried kind of way, she says, "Hey, little sister." My mother she always calls me little sister. And I'll tell you that probably in another video, why she calls me little sister. But she said, "Hey, little sister." She says, "Can I call you back? The chaplain is here." That was my reaction again. But I want to say this. God, whoever that deity or being is outside of yourself, that is supreme to you, that holds you accountable, that imparts a moral compass in you, whoever that may be, he's so merciful. He's so merciful. because when my mother told me the chaplain was there, I mean, I've been in the hospitals. I'm in healthcare. I know what that means. Beyond a shadow of doubt, I know what that means. What it means. But my mind didn't process it. And this is how I know my mind didn't process it. Because some time passed and I wanted to talk to her, but I didn't want to call her. So I just text her. And my text, because I still read it to this day. I keep all my mother's messages. I text, is the social worker still in the room? Now, my mother didn't say anything about a social worker, but that's what I text. And to this day, I can't really tell you why I text that. But I know she said the chaplain. And I know she said the chaplain because in subsequent conversations with my father, it was the chaplain. So she texts me. She says, hey, they're releasing me and Dad's on his way to pick me up. I said, oh, okay, well, Mom's going home. Yay. So that was the 26th. It was Friday of November. And my sister's birthday is the 28th of November. And I'll tell you in a moment why that's significant. So again, my mother got out the 26th. She was home on my sister's birthday, the 28th, which was a Sunday. And in between, I still was having this conversation with my mother about, hey, I just really feel like, I need to be there. I want to be the one to take care of you. This is what I do for a living. And she told me on Saturday, the 27th, when I was kind of bringing the conversation up again, she says, hey, little sister, she says, you know what? I am going to want you to come. Yes, I am going to want you to come. I said, Mommy, I can come Monday. I said, my boss, she already knows that, I have something going on. It's not a big deal. She's very supportive. So I can come Monday, Mommy. And she was like, well, hold off on that. Let me think about it. And then we'll talk about it on Monday. That's what she said to me, the 30th. So Monday comes around and I don't hear from my mom. And I'm trying not to harass her because my mother has very firm boundaries, and you don't want to get told off. You'll get told off if you push too hard. So I tried to wait for my mother to call me. And I was so good. I didn't call her. 10 o'clock in the morning, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, 5 o'clock at night. Didn't call my mother. Finally, my mother calls me at 8:30 at night. And she's just as chipper as she wants to be. And she was like, hey, little sister. She's like, Mommy's doing good. She says, how you doing? And we had this whole conversation, exchanging niceties and, all that kind of stuff. And then she did bring up me coming. So finally she gets around to it and she goes, you know what, little sister, I know we talked about you coming and, to help take care of me and just see me through this whole process. And I do want that. That's a wonderful idea. So let's plan on you coming in the spring so that you don't have to leave your job abruptly. And then, at the time, she expressed wanting to buy another house because she wanted to be in a ranch, so that she wouldn't have to, navigate the stairs, and also to get a bigger house so that I can have my private space and my parents can still maintain their private space. So, in a way that made sense to me. So reluctantly, I conceded. Very reluctantly, I conceded. And I said, okay. And so I started looking for houses and I was sending her posts and descriptions and that type of thing, different properties that, we should consider. So this went on Tuesday and Wednesday. So Wednesday I'm at work, regular work day, come home. I had an incident at work, and I'm going to talk about this in a different video, why you have to not allow certain types of personalities to consume too much of your time, or to be what my mother always called time bandits. Because of a particular situation at work, I got robbed of some very critical energy and time that I should have spent somewhere else. But we'll talk about that in another video. So because of the day I had at work, when I came home on Wednesday, this is December 2nd, I was kind of, annoyed, and I just wanted to have one of those days I want to get in the bed and just pull the cover on my head. And I wake up about 9-10 o'clock, and I never have my ringer on because I can't stand to hear the telephone ring. So I wake up about 9 or 10 o'clock, and I see like all of these missed messages from my sister and my dad, and even my son, who rarely calls me, but that's a different story. It's not bad. It's just, he's just a rock star and real busy, and I'm so proud of him. But, but my son had called me several times, and that was unusual. And I think you just kind of know in your gut. You just kind of know. And I'm kind of pondering who I was going to call first. And I decided to call my sister first, because I felt like, well, maybe mommy's in the hospital. Let me just get a little preliminary kind of briefing before I talk to my dad. And I called my sister, and she's calm, and she calmly tells me that our mother passed away. And I was like, I just started screaming. I'm like at my home, I moved. This is my new home. In my previous home, my neighbors were closer to me. And there was so much energy in my body that I didn't even know what to do with it. And I never, like you see on TV where people scream, and I never really knew why they did that. Like, I mean, it's so emotional, no doubt, but I know now. And the reason why I say I never knew that, because I had never lost anyone that close to me. Now, we're talking about all the people in my life. Out of all the people in my life, my mother is my number one. My number one. So this is not just someone you losing. We're talking about my number one. And I was consumed with so much energy. I didn't know what to do with it. I just started running around my house screaming. And just saying no, like as though if I was saying no, I can stop time. Yeah. So my mother went in the hospital on the 24th of November. I talked to her November 30th about me coming to take care of her. And then 2 days later, my mother was still working. She was still working, but she was working remote. She was still working. Worked a full day of work on Wednesday. And she passed away at 7:34 Wednesday night. That impacted me in a number of ways. And I'm going to try to just kind of highlight a few of those ways, and then I'm going to just go sit with this information I share with you. You know, one, it taught me not to wait. Don't wait. My mother, I talked to her on Monday, and she was gone on Wednesday. And I had asked my mother on Monday, let me come to you. Don't wait. It taught me that to trust, I've always have, but it taught me even more so to trust my intuition. Yeah, to trust my intuition. My whole spirit was stirred for like 3 weeks because I was constantly talking to her about the prospect of me coming, and my spirit was just stirred. You know, I can't recall, but I'm almost certain I had a dream too that was prompting me. I have to like think back, like so much has gone on, but if I sit quietly and think back, I'm sure it'll come to me. And I'm going to say the third thing, there's so many lessons. And if I think of some things and write them down, then maybe I'll make a subsequent video. But I would say the third thing is don't let people who don't matter rob you of your time and energy. And I'll say that, and I say that because if you recall, I said something went on at work. It made me want to go home, pull the cover over my head, and go to sleep. Well, I was dealing with a colleague at work who's just very needy, very insecure, very petty. And I'm always trying to be optimistic and try to pour into people. And, you know, but those type of people can be exhausting, just simply exhausting. That by the time I was done dealing with her and the complaints of the day, I was so drained. And my mother again called them time bandits. I was so drained from that time bandit that I went right home, got into bed, pulled the cover over my head, and I slept through the process of my mother leaving this earth. I slept through my father calling me over 10 times because I never had my ringer on. I slept through my sister needing me, calling me, came to my house, banging on the door because I was too exhausted. I slept through my son calling me, needing me to know that all of our lives were changed forever. So that was such a very valuable lesson I learned about time bandits. And my mother always talked to us about that kind of thing. So now I've been in therapy since all of this has happened. And I will just share with you some of the coping mechanisms, some of the ways that I had to develop to be able to learn to exist in this new norm. My mother had me when she was 15 years old. And she was a real mama. She was a real mama. She did not play. She did not neglect us. She advocated for us. She loved us. She gave us exposure to so many things as a young mother to help us be as well-rounded as we have, morphed into. She was committed. She was dedicated. She was my mommy. And I am so grateful to have had the mother that God gave me. My mother, I had to go and clean out my parents' home when my mother passed. And I'm going to share something about that too, as far as children who have to go back or who are left and have to, finalize their parents' lives after they've gone on. Because that's a very important discussion, I think, that just needs to be had. But when I went to my parents' house, there was this plaque hanging on the wall. And I asked my dad, I said, can I have that? And he said, of course. And I'm gonna show it to you. I hope you can see it good. This plaque was hanging on the wall. And if you can see that the book that little girl is clinging to, the title says Little Sister. Now, I mentioned several times that my mother called me little sister. So that's really what caught my attention. I was like, oh, Dad, can I have that? And he was like, of course you can. So I took the plaque off the wall. And on the back was a Post-it note. And this is what the Post-it note said. It reads, of course, I thought of you when I saw this. I found it over a month ago, and now I'm finally sending it. Love, me. When I saw the plaque on the wall, I had no memory or recollection that I actually gave it to my mother. I was so surprised. And I'm not one to buy cards because I feel like they're so expensive. I'd rather just give you that extra $5 and let you go buy a coffee latte or something. So I wrote it on a Post-it note. And that's how I usually send things out. My mother and I would always exchange little love letters to each other. And one of the things that I had struggled with was sleeping through that night, not calling her when I got home, and not having a formal opportunity to say goodbye. But when I read this and I saw that plaque, it just kind of reaffirmed that my mother and I always said and always communicated how much we loved each other. And it has not been until like very recent that I feel like I was able to say goodbye. So I am going to stop right here. Don't wait. Don't put things off. Trust your intuition and avoid time bandits at all costs. And I'm going to insert some pictures of my mother at the end. People always tell me I look just like her, so I do see myself in her. But I'll let you be the judge of that. All right. Bye, Mommy. I love you. And thank you.